in those 15 seconds, all of a sudden I could see all of the different perspectives that could have been created and the way I could have walked away from each of those situations and not felt that I was the problem or not felt like I was unworthy and like I must have done something to deserve this treatment, and I need to prove myself even more because of it. That all came from my own pain and my own unworthiness that was created far before each of these experiences. And these experiences just amplified it. They just mirrored it back to me even stronger because that's the story that my ego or maybe my subconscious actually decided to tell. And so that's how, in that instant, then I could go, whoa, I could actually let this go now. I could actually decide right here, right now, that none of these things actually meant that I was undeserving. None of these experiences meant that I'm unworthy. I'm a fucking badass. Say what? Like, am I gonna let these things continue to hold me back? I kind of can't get over that I just was swearing, but am I truly gonna allow these experiences to continue to impact my present day reality and therefore continue to impact my future? That's a very simple yes or no question, and yet majority of the times we say, yes, I'm going to continue to let this impact me moving forward. I don't think there's a single person on the planet who hasn't struggled with feeling unworthy. And today I want to share a practice that I do specifically to help with unworthiness that was created from other people. So, different relationships, different moments in time that maybe cause deep pain or feeling like you're not good enough, and how you can shift that very, very quickly so that you can move forward feeling more confident, feeling more empowered, realizing how special you are, and creating a totally new identity for yourself that is no longer held back by the weight of those past experiences or those other people. And make sure you stay till the end because at about the 27-minute mark, I'm going to be sharing a short guided practice for you so that you can experience this shift around unworthiness in your own life during this episode. Welcome to the Cara Michelle Show, where we break out of the matrix together and return heaven to earth. This is a place for the spiritual seekers and leaders, the dreamers and doers, the conscious creators and world changers. You can expect a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but mostly a whole lot of purpose, freedom, and sovereignty. And of course, all things quantum. May this podcast serve you in remembering the truth of who you are, all that you came here to do, and how deeply supported you are in doing it. You are incredibly powerful and your mission is protected. So it's time to dial up your frequency and recalibrate to your higher self and limitless potential. Get ready, because we're about to blast off. A new reality awaits you on the other side. I'll see you there. Okay, this is a really powerful practice that you can do, and it's something that I find myself doing quite often in my quantum work when it comes to timeline repair or healing old wounds with other people or inner child wounds. Like, this unworthiness connects to so many areas in our life, and unfortunately, as long as we feel unworthy, we have a tendency to push away or sabotage the things that we do want, or we continue to attract or settle for things that we don't want, right? Because if you believed you were absolutely undeniably worthy of the very best, your beliefs about yourself, the things you would tolerate or you wouldn't tolerate, the expectations you'd have for how life works for you and how, the universe and a higher power, how God is supporting and working and moving through you, like everything would change when you are holding that unshakable worthiness. And yet, thanks to childhood, shout out to good old childhood, and thanks to really poorly programmed and brainwashed people on the planet, this unworthiness, this shame, this judgment, this constant striving to be better in order to feel like we're just enough, it runs very deep. And so I was doing this practice myself last night, and I want to share kind of what came through for me because I think there's going to be a lot of value from that. I think a lot of you will relate to different aspects from this and hopefully feel less alone in what you may be experiencing or processing yourself, and kind of normalize the healing process by sharing this. And then I'm going to guide you through just something really short and sweet so that you can do this yourself, and you can always come back and listen to it time and time again. And this is kind of a combination of different subconscious reprogramming tools, different quantum healing hypnosis that I offer inside my quantum healing bundles. There is one specifically for confidence, and it is called Empower. So if you're really looking to dial in and increase your confidence, this would be the perfect bundle to start with because it's very much focused around all the things that affect our identity, our self-worth, and what we believe we deserve, therefore, what we believe we can create or attract in our life. The other option that I'd recommend is called Connect, and that focuses specifically on relationships, like all relationships. So, not only your relationship to your inner child and healing childhood wounding, to your higher self and connecting to those greater aspects of who you are, but also to your parents to heal any mother or father wounds that were created during childhood, repairing the masculine and feminine templates that were learned, and upgrading them from lower aspects to the frequency of the divine masculine and divine feminine, and so much more. So the link for that will be in the show notes if you want to check it out after. But for now, what I was focusing on last night was relationships to the masculine. I mean, I definitely have wounds towards the feminine still. Some of those came up this morning. You gotta love doing this work because you're just like, oh, there's another thing, there's another thing, and it never ends. But I think you can make it fun, and I think you can. What I know has been huge for me is being the objective observer. So I still feel the emotions because the emotions are there and they can be really strong, especially if they've been suppressed for a long time. And it's important to acknowledge and allow yourself to feel, but also having that objective perspective so that you can see the bigger picture and see, we zoom out our lens and we're able to see that there's actually a lot of other possibilities. There's a lot of other components to the story or to that experience that we maybe didn't notice from our very limited self-focused lens, right? And so when we connect to our higher self, or when you're just taking that objective perspective, like instead of you're the first person experiencing it, you're zooming out and watching it like you're watching a movie, you can see all the other connected pieces or the ways that things are influencing. And so last night, I wanted to focus on feelings of unworthiness, and I was really tuning into like, what is still showing up for me that maybe makes me feel unworthy or undeserving. And what came through was relationships to men. And so I started to line them all up. And I was like, you're going to all sit right in front of me. And I'm just going to like acknowledge what's going on here. And so I had four men sitting in front of me. I had the guy who I experienced the rape with. He was sitting there first because that obviously, you could probably imagine, created a lot of unworthiness, a lot of feelings like I did something wrong, or like I deserved that, or like I didn't deserve anything better. And clearly there was still a little bit of that playing out in my energy field or in my subconscious. Then I saw my dad, and I talk about it often. I definitely have a lot of wounding from the ways my dad did and didn't show up for me, and what I needed and the needs that weren't met. And so I always felt like I wasn't good enough, or like I had to prove myself just to get attention. And yet we have so many things in common. And I believe we could have had this amazing father-daughter relationship, but he was always busy with work and had a drinking problem for most of my life. And so it just was like the little kid who just desperately wants to be seen and loved and acknowledged, and like, look at this, and like, look at this thing we have in common, or all of those things, and just not feeling really acknowledged. So that created a lot of unworthiness. Then beside my dad, I had my brother Derek, and this was an interesting one because it wasn't necessarily unworthiness that was coming through. It was more so feeling abandoned, and like the abandonment from his death, because he was my hero and my person, and like almost just feeling like I didn't deserve, or like I deserved it, or like I didn't deserve better, and still some kind of pain connected to that. And then last in the line was a man who I deeply, deeply in love with, and the pain, I guess the feeling that I wasn't enough for him, and feeling unworthy of him, because he's like everything I always dreamed about and everything I always wanted in a person. And the connection felt so strong, the emotions were so strong, all the things, and then feeling like, oh, but I'm not good enough for you, right? And so, four very different relationships in my life, for very different circumstances, and yet they all came back to fueling a feeling of not being good enough, and feeling of being unworthy of better, or unworthy of what I desire. So I invite you, as I continue into this process, to just reflect on what comes up for you. And we're going to be doing this a lot on this podcast, and I know it can be uncomfortable, which is why I also want to keep sharing my process so that you don't feel alone in it. And please just know that, like, there's so much healing on the other side of this, because this these emotions are trapped in your body, or in your subconscious, or in your energy field. And so if we don't look at them, they are going to manifest at some point, manifest in so many different ways. And so I'm just like, hey, let's face it, because on the other side, I'm going to feel 1,000 times better. And then I get to move forward. And like, that's amazing. Who doesn't want that, right? So the temporary discomfort is greeted by a lifetime of freedom on the other side. And the more you continue this process, the easier it becomes. So that allows you to stay objective, and allows you to just see it for what it is, and then release it and move forward. So I invite you to reflect on what comes up for you, and if there's maybe one person, if there's maybe multiple people where you really felt like, yeah, things that went on with them made me feel really unworthy, made me feel like I wasn't good enough, made me feel like I deserved bad things, or like I wouldn't ever deserve better. That's a big shadow to look at. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, it plays a role, or takes a toll in so many areas of our life. And I'll get into more of like the next steps for you, and a mini guided version at the end. But just reflecting on it as I continue through this process, so that you can already have breakthroughs, and already kind of see yourself doing this process and creating that healing. So I went through them one by one, and I had the conversations that needed to be had. That's big for me because I have a tendency to suppress my voice and not speak up for myself or not speak up about how I feel or what I need. So doing that in the quantum, like through visualization, is really, really powerful for me. And sharing how these things made me feel unworthy or how I didn't appreciate it. And after I got that side out, then the kind of breakthrough or like the download popped in for me of like, what if, Kara, here's our higher self talking, right? Like, what if they didn't treat you that way because they thought you deserved it? What if they were just in pain? Whoa. Like, think about that for a second. And this is why we need to pause and see things from all perspectives, because my life story from these experiences has been that I did something wrong, that I was the problem, that I was unworthy. Very me focused because that's how our ego works, that's how our experiences, because we're living our first person life, right? But what if the rape wasn't because I deserved it and like it wasn't a disrespect or, and like yes it was, but what if in the higher realms or a higher meaning behind it is that he was in pain. For someone to do that, they have their own levels of pain, they have their own issues and beliefs around what's normal and what's okay, but it might not have had anything to do with me not being worthy. And then if we go to my dad, I know for a fact that he didn't treat me the way he did because he didn't think I was worthy or that he didn't think I was deserving or lovable. It was like he thought he was doing the best because of what his upbringing was and what his beliefs were around being a dad and being a provider and all these things. So he never intended for me to think I was unworthy. He was just operating from his pain and his limitation. When we look at my brother, clearly that is a dynamic that has nothing to do with me deserving it or me being unworthy of better. And it was circumstance. We could say it was an accident. We could say it was soul contract, which I believe it was. There's so many different perspectives we could take on it. But me losing my brother had nothing to do with my worthiness. And when you see it from that perspective, or for me at least, when I saw it from this higher self objective awareness, it's like, yeah, of course, that has nothing to do with my worth at all. And like, it actually breaks my heart to think that he passed away a decade ago and I've still been carrying beliefs that like I was worthy of that, or that I'm not worthy of better, or that I'm not, worthy of good things because of that experience. So that was very eye-opening. And then I went to the man I'm in love with, and I once again saw like, what if this experience and the things that have played out actually never had anything to do with you not being worthy? What if it was timing? What if it was circumstance? What if it was different beliefs? What if it was all these other things, both of you having things going on in your life? There's a million different reasons and a million different stories or potential timelines that could have been created had I taken a different perspective. This is how we have those quantum leaps or those quantum shifts, is realizing like in this split instant, because I probably just took like 5 minutes to explain it all, but all of this happened like within 10 seconds or something. The download hit of like, Kara, what if none of this ever meant you were unworthy? What if it was just their own pain or their own limiting beliefs or their own experience at the time and their way of handling things? Boom. Maybe 15 seconds, right? But in those 15 seconds, all of a sudden, I could see all of the different perspectives that could have been created and the way I could have actually walked away from each of those situations and not made it mean anything about me. I could have walked away from each of those situations and not felt that I was the problem, or not felt like I was unworthy and like I must have done something to deserve this treatment and I need to prove myself even more because of it. That all came from my own pain and my own unworthiness that was created far before each of these experiences. And these experiences just amplified it. They just mirrored it back to me even stronger because that's the story that my ego, or maybe my subconscious, actually decided to tell. That's how, in that instant, then I could go, whoa, I could actually let this go now. I could actually decide right here, right now, that none of these things actually meant that I was undeserving. None of these experiences meant that I'm unworthy. I'm a fucking badass. Say what? Like, am I gonna let these things continue to hold me back? I kind of can't get over that I just was swearing, but am I truly gonna allow these experiences to continue to impact my present day reality and therefore continue to impact my future? That's a very simple yes or no question, and yet majority of the times we say, yes, I'm going to continue to let this impact me moving forward, instead of saying, no, I want to choose a new way. So after realizing this, I then began to think about, like, what if I had never made this mean anything about my self-worth? And what if I had continued to move on from that experience and be like, yeah, I still know who I am. I still believe in myself. I still love myself. So I'm going to go forward this way and see this as an experience that I went through, but not as a reflection of me. And that's the key. Every single thing you experience, yes, it's something you have gone through. Yes, it's real life encounters and real life lessons, but you don't have to identify with it and make it mean something about you and the core truth of who you are. Moving forward, I really hope that you can use this practice to see that, like, you have the power to still create your own identity and create your own narrative, no matter what's going on. It could be an example, a parent saying something to you as a kid, and then you felt like you weren't good enough, and you've spent your whole life trying so hard to just get the attention to validate what you were lacking as a child. Well, right now you have the ability to change that narrative and to say, you know what? Actually, that comment from my parent had nothing to do with me not being good enough. And it had everything to do with the fact that they were stressed out, that they were busy, that they were sidetracked, that they didn't know how to manage their emotions. And so they snapped at me, or that they, this and this and this. They were holding a lot of trauma that they didn't heal. There's infinite other stories that could have been created. And in this moment, you can choose one that serves you. Sometimes I call it healthy delusion because some people would argue with me and say, well, that's not the truth, though, because this is what happened, and this was said, and this was hurtful. And I'm not uh, retracting. Is that the word? Detracting? Retracting. I think that's the word. Uh, Subtracting. I'm not taking away from the fact that that was the experience. I'm not saying that I wasn't raped. I'm not saying that my dad wasn't neglectful at times. I'm not saying that my brother didn't die. I'm not saying that I didn't feel good enough for their last relationship. Like, those are all facts. So I'm not arguing that. But what I'm saying is, I want to choose a better story to move forward with that's actually going to empower me and support me in who I want to be. So instead of continuing to let all those moments fuel the I am unworthy story, I'm going to let them fuel the story that it was something I experienced. There were multiple parties involved. Everyone had their own things going on. Probably they didn't even mean to cause the pain or the hurt. Definitely they didn't do it because they thought I deserved it. They didn't do it out of spite or because they thought I was garbage, or that they thought I was a loser, or that I was unworthy. Like, I know without a doubt none of those experiences happened for that reason. So it's a conscious decision to no longer choose the narrative that I'm unworthy. And that's really what this comes down to. And so after doing the practice, then I was able to really start to fill in those gaps and fill in like a new story of, had I never experienced these things, or had I never created this belief after experiencing these things, how would I feel today? How would I have continued to go through my life? How would I have been seeing myself instead of looking through a lens of unworthiness? Would I have still loved myself? Would I have still chosen to believe that I was more than enough? Would I have still believed that I deserved amazing things regardless? Right? And that is the practice. That is what we get to always come back to. To wrap this up and bring you through a very short but sweet and powerful practice of this. Obviously, if you're driving, goes without saying, if you're driving or operating heavy machinery, or you're doing anything of the sort where your safety or anyone else's safety could be compromised, do not close your eyes. Do not listen to this now. You can pause it, you can come back later. But if you're in a safe space, I would really love for you to just take a moment to close your eyes here and exhale. Take a nice deep breath and let it all out. And you might already feel relaxed. You might actually feel a little bit tense just with the heaviness of this topic and the awareness of facing the discomfort that you're about to face. You might feel that in your body, and if you do, again, just keep breathing through it and feeling it diffuse a little bit more with each breath out. And we're just going to do one person or one specific memory in this moment. So, inviting you to see what comes up first. There might be something top of mind. You might be surprised by what memory shows up or what person shows up, but just seeing this one particular person that you had an experience with that really made you feel unworthy, and see them standing or sitting in front of you. Notice again any emotions that come up as you do this, and just keep having nice relaxed breathing, allowing your nervous system to calm down if it feels a little bit activated. So bringing that awareness to your breath. And you can say it out loud if you're in your own private space, or you can just say it in the visualization, but begin to express how you feel and express what went on, what this caused for you. Maybe sharing anything that went unsaid that you feel could help you move forward today. And as you're doing this, notice how they're reacting. Notice the other person's response and what's coming up for them. Sometimes this is reflective of past experiences and ways we've seen them respond. Other times you might be surprised by what can take place in the energetic realm and the way they can respond softer or unexpectedly, with kindness and compassion. And once you have expressed your side and release what you needed to get out around this situation and this unworthiness that was created, I'm going to invite you to really bring in that higher self perspective. So almost like you're zooming out and you're looking down from a higher perspective. Maybe you're floating in the corner of the room and looking down at yourself and this person. It could show up in many different ways for you. But just seeing this bigger picture and really looking at, did the way that they treated you or the things that they said or did, was that because you weren't worthy? Yes or no? Is the ultimate truth that you deserved that? Yes or no? Do you think that there might have been other things going on that caused that person to do or say or act the way that they did? Yes or no? And allow yourself to really grasp the fact that this experience, this encounter, had nothing to do with your worthiness. Really feel that in your body. And if emotions are coming through, beautiful. Please let them through. Give them this space to be seen and witnessed and honored. And then taking this moment to just really pay attention to the sensation or the feeling of like, this actually never meant anything about me. This actually never, ever, ever meant anything about me. This never meant I was unworthy. This never meant I wasn't good enough. This never meant I deserved bad things or that I didn't deserve all that I want and more. This was just an experience. This was just a moment in time, and I am now choosing to take away from it a much more empowering and supportive story. I'm choosing right here, right now, to see things from a higher perspective and to let go of any of the beliefs, any of the emotions, any of the energies that were created from this experience, to let those go and replace them with love and replace them with this deep, full body inner knowing that I am worthy. And notice how that feels for you to choose a new story, to choose to see yourself from a very new lens. And if you feel comfortable, maybe a moment of forgiveness or compassion, maybe you're even able to give this person a hug or say thank you for their role in your life, for all that they helped you learn or grow through, or for this exact moment of realizing, like, I'm worthy regardless. That's something to be very thankful for, to have that awareness now. And if that feels too tough, then that's okay. You can just say a polite goodbye and send them on their way so that you can go forward in your way, free from the past, free from this person, free from the beliefs or the energetic charge that they had once caused. And then you can begin to bring your awareness back into your breath and just take a few last deep breaths, as if every inhale you're inhaling worthiness into your body and you're inhaling what was always meant to be there, but maybe felt a little bit distant for a while, felt a little bit hard to find. And you're just breathing that in and nice relaxed exhales as it settles into your body. You feel how worthy you are, how worthy you have always been. And when you're ready, you can gently blink your eyes back open, coming back to the sound of my voice, coming back into the room around you, and truly knowing that this is done. So there's nothing else you need to do other than to hold this new story and keep printing it in so that your body continues to normalize this new feeling. Because if, like me, you've spent a long time believing a story of your unworthiness, and I think sadly we probably all have since very, very early childhood been fueling that story. So if you've spent a lifetime normalizing that feeling, your body might not know what it feels like to feel the opposite, right? Because we only know one thing. We know what it's like to feel unworthy. That feels normal to us. And so your job moving forward, your homework is to, throughout the day, bring back this feeling. Maybe it's every time you look at your phone, use that as your trigger of like, let me take a few deep breaths and just breathe into what it's like to say, I am worthy, I'm deserving, and like feel that entering your body and infusing in your body with your breath. Or maybe it's like every time you catch your reflection in the mirror, you're going to say that. And you're going to think of this new timeline or this alternate experience where that higher perspective is there of like, yeah, this actually never meant that I was unworthy. This never had anything to do with my worthiness or deservingness. And I am choosing now to breathe into what I actually want to believe, which is that I have always been more than enough. And then taking that deep breath, using that as your kind of trigger, your little signal of like, okay, let's keep anchoring this in further. Okay? And you can come back to this visualization as much as you need. You can come back to it with different people because obviously I only took you through one, but as with mine, like I just kind of had them sitting there together and went through one by one, so you can do it that way. Or whatever feels good to you. Maybe you don't even need to listen back and you just want to sit and journal about it or sit and reflect on it or whatever feels most resonant to your body, honor that. But I highly, highly encourage you to do this practice more than once, especially if there are experiences that feel highly charged and do deeply contribute to how you see yourself and what you believe you're deserving of. Okay? Because the more you do it, the better you're going to feel, and the more free you're going to feel from these experiences, the more you're going to see yourself in a new light. Also, the more you do it, the more you realize that, like, you are so incredibly powerful. You are a co-creator. You can play in the quantum. Just like me, you can do this all the time and you can rewrite stories so quickly, so easily by doing this and set yourself free by realizing that you don't need to give power to those people or those past experiences any longer, right? Every time we choose ourselves, every time we choose wholeness, every time we choose to see ourselves as worthy and good enough, we are taking power back from these old experiences and we're unifying in the present moment, here and now. So, highly encourage you to do this as much as you need and continue bringing it with you throughout the day, tuning into that new frequency of like, I'm whole, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I always have been, I'm deserving of the best. Start to notice if that feels a little bit more believable with every experience as you've released what used to feel so strong, what used to feel like such a deep truth. The more that that washes away, the more you can actually really believe the positive narrative to move forward with. So we're going to end this here for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed this share. I hope you enjoyed this visualization. I hope it served you in remembering how incredible you are in all the ways and how deserving you are of having everything you want and more, and truly living a remarkable human experience. Because what are we here for if not to enjoy and like live blissfully and live expansive and like truly seeing what it's like to be in this 3D experience, but being limitless and boundless as we navigate. So I hope that you were able to tap into that. And if this is something that you're wanting to do deeper, as I mentioned before, my quantum healing bundles are the place to go. They are filled with such incredible trainings, and I go deep into so many different modalities and my favorite hypnosis practices and healing tools to help with energetic signatures and like our blueprint that gets created, as well as reprogramming the subconscious mind and creating these new beliefs for you so that you can step into, whether it's love, whether it's more money, whether it's a life of purpose, whether it's creating your legacy, or all these different things. I've got a handful of bundles on my website. You can check it out in the show notes. That is a great place to start to continue doing this work even deeper, to release more and more of the layers and realign to your higher self so that you can step up and show up fully in your power. And I know it has been absolutely transformative in my own life and in the lives of my clients, and I'm so excited to now have it in these courses so that it's more accessible and you can truly just watch the training or plug in the quantum healing hypnosis, relax, go through this journey, allow your subconscious to do the work for you, and release what needs to go and reprogram what is going to serve you moving forward. And then watch as your physical reality changes around you, because you're no longer seeing yourself from those limitations or from that limited state of being. So again, that link is in the show notes to check that out. And I will see you on the next episode. Sending so much love.